This is Injury Prevention and Strength Training Phase 2. Complete Phase 1 5 to 6 times before moving into Phase 2. For today's workout, you'll need a bench or a step or a chair. We'll begin in an elbow plank to help warm us up. Remember that the elbows are directly underneath the shoulders. You can also be on your knees if you need to be, tucking the hips under and squeezing the glutes together. You'll notice here that your quads need to be engaged. Pulling your belly button up toward your spine will help you envision having this flat mesh layer and knit your ribs in. Breathe through the exercise, and we will go 30 seconds total. Remain in this plank position as we move into the military push-up. Up on your right hand, up on your left, down on your right elbow, and down on your left elbow. Moving as a plank and as one straight line, keeping your glutes tucked together. And you'll complete 5, and once you've completed 5, you'll remain and stay at the top, right here. Stay in your hand plank, and we will go to shoulder taps. So you're staying in a tight straight line, taking the right hand to the left shoulder and then the left hand to the right shoulder. Complete 5 each side. From here, we will transition into our hover squat. Bring the chair so that it's directly underneath you, and when you squat back, you're thinking about reaching your tailbone to the back of the chair. Keeping your knees behind the line of your toes, and your arms out in front of you will help counterbalance your weight. Pull in your abdominals and let there be a natural bend in the lower back. Using your glutes and your hamstrings and your quads to hold you steady. You'll remain here 30 seconds. Transition into your horizontal moving plank with your elbows directly below your shoulders and on your toes. Slowly shift your weight forward and then back to the neutral position, keeping your ribs knit in, your glutes squeezing together and your hips tucked under. Activate your quads and think about pulling your belly button towards your spine. Repeat this exercise for 30 seconds, and then we'll transition into the military push-ups on the left. Transition to your military push-ups with your left arm leading, working on keeping your body as a plank and not allowing your hips to sway or to rock up and down, trying to keep your body as straight as you possibly can, like a board. Remain at the top, and from here into your modified Spider-Mans with the left knee to the left elbow and the right knee to the right elbow, each time coming back to a plank, making sure that your form is correct on your plank with your hips tucked under and your glutes squeezed together. Complete 5 on each side. Transition into your Malasana squat with your feet wide and your knees directly over your ankles and not over your toes, making sure that your feet are wide enough that your knees do not go over the line of your toes. Press the backs of your hands against the inner part of your inner thighs and keep your back flat and tall. Hold here for 30 seconds, engaging the inner thighs and the glutes and the quads and the hamstrings. Transition to a left side elbow plank on your toes with hip drops. Stack your hips, stack your shoulders, and stack your feet or stagger your feet one in front of the other. Pull your ribs in and pull your abdominals in towards your spine. Drop your left hip towards the ground, and then as you raise back up, think about pulling the abdominals in and using your entire abdominal core to bring you up. Complete 10 repetitions here. Drop to your knee, and we will have side plank leg lifts, making sure that you squeeze your glutes together and push your hips forward without arching your lower back. Stack your shoulder blades and complete 10 repetitions. Transition to your incline push-ups on the chair. These are plank push-ups. You're either on your toes or on your knees, making sure that your glutes are tucked under, your abdominals are engaged and pulled up towards your spine, and your elbows are going more back than they are out to the sides. Also, your quads are engaged. This is a full body exercise. If you find yourself worming on the way up in your back, take it to your knees. Proper form will increase your strength, and over time you'll be able to do all 10 on your toes. Transition to your elevated dead bug. In the dead bug, your shoulder blades are going to be on the chair, and then your feet are going to be together. Press your hips towards the ceiling and engage your glutes. Squeeze them together. For most, their inner thighs will continue to touch. Here, squeeze them together towards one another. Keep your hips pressing towards the ceiling, and as you get tired throughout these 30 seconds, your hips will begin to drop. Every second, check in and push up. Squeeze the glutes together, tuck them under, and push hard towards the ceiling, and engage those hamstrings. Transition to your right side elbow plank with hip drops. Stack your shoulder blades, stack your hips. Either stagger your feet or stack your feet. Drop your right hip towards the ground, pull in your abdominals, and then lift your hips high, keeping your glutes squeezed together and your hips pushed forward without swaying in your lower back. Complete 10 repetitions. Transition to your right side plank with your leg lifts. Squeeze the glutes together, push the hips forward. Raise and lower your top leg with your shoulder blades stacked. Complete 10 repetitions. Transition to your chair for your triceps bench dips. Your shoulders are right over your hands. Your bottom is brought back close to the chair, and your knees are bent. You'll drop down to 90 degrees with your arms, and then straighten all the way up. To make this more difficult, you can bring your feet out in front of you. Fully extend your arms at the top of each repetition and complete 10 repetitions. Transition to your single leg glute bridge on the ground. Lay on your back. Lift your right leg towards the ceiling with your left foot into the ground, rooted firmly into the ground. Push through your left heel as you raise your pelvis towards the ceiling. That right leg stays steady and straight. Think of squeezing your glutes and tucking them under when you get to the top, and perform 10 repetitions on this side. Switching legs here to your right single leg bridge lifts. Remember that each time you extend all the way up, that you tuck the glutes under and you squeeze the glutes and you are pushing through that right heel. Perform 10 repetitions. Transition to your Bulgarian split squats with your right foot forward and your left foot back on your bench, making sure that your squat form is wide enough so that your right knee does not come over the line of your toes on your right foot. Raise your arms over your head, and it's an up and down motion instead of a forward and back motion. Think about using the glute of the right side to push you up as you push your heel into the ground and push the ground away. Perform 10 repetitions, and then from here, transition into your right-legged stork stance. Your left leg will go back, and it's a pendulum motion. As your left leg goes back, your left hand goes down to the ground, and then raise your left knee back up into the air and balance. Perform 10 repetitions. And use the glutes on your right side to stabilize and build strength. Transition to your overhead Bulgarian split squat, this time with your left foot on the ground and your right foot back on the bench, making sure that your squat form is wide enough to keep your toes behind your knees. Push the ground away every time you come up. Push the heel into the ground. This motion is an up and down motion. Perform 10 repetitions before transitioning into your single leg stork stance on your left with your right leg going behind you, and then driving that right knee back up, finding your balance each time, making sure each one counts, and really building strength through the left gluteals. Perform 10 repetitions before transitioning. From here, take your left foot back on the bench again into your quick Bulgarian split squats. Same form as before, except with running arms. Push through the heel and be explosive and powerful, building that mind-body connection to explode every time the heel is on the ground. Perform 10 repetitions before transitioning into your bench step-ups. You're stepping up with your right foot as your right foot stays on the bench and your left foot barely goes back and touches the floor. Think about the right glute the entire time, keeping the knee behind the toe. Perform 10 reps. Transition to your Bulgarian split squat with the left foot forward this time. These are quick and powerful and explosive. Make sure your form is set up before you begin, keeping your knee behind your toe. The arm is in a running motion. Push through the heel. Use the glute to drive you upwards before you transition to your bench step-ups with your left foot on the bench, using your left glutes, barely touching those right toes, and pushing off and performing 10 repetitions. Transition to the floor for your left leg crab abs. Your left hand and your right foot are on the ground. Raise your left leg and meet the left foot with the right hand. These take balance and coordination, a ton of abdominal core, and strength through the shoulders and the triceps. Take your time. These will get better as you continue to do them. Perform 10 repetitions. Transition to the ground in a plank position and then bend your knees and hover them right over the ground. From here, you'll shift your weight forward, keeping the knees hovering over the ground, and then bring it back to the tucked in position, never allowing your knees to touch the ground. Perform 5 repetitions before transitioning. From here, transition back to your right crab abs, keeping your right hand and your left foot on the ground this time. Raise your right leg and meet the right foot with your left hand. Perform 10 repetitions before transitioning. Once again, roll back over into your plank position, into the moving bear, hovering the knees right over the ground. Shift your weight forward and then back to that hovered position, never allowing the knees to touch the ground, pulling up with your abdominals and knitting your ribs in, and using the strength in the shoulders and in the abdominals. Perform 5 reps. From here, allow your knees to drop to the floor, then open your knees wider. Sit your hips back in a child's pose stretch with your hands extended out in front of you, lengthening your spine. And then from here, you'll bring your right foot forward with your left hip directly over your left knee. And then tuck your hips under, feeling the lengthening through the front of the left hip in a psoas or hip flexor stretch. Then we'll transition to the other side with your left foot forward and your right hip directly over your right knee. Tuck your hips under and allow the lengthening and the stretching in the front of that right hip. And we'll hold for 20 seconds. Once you have completed that, you are finished.